Hey guys, Henry here, coming at you with vlog number 2. Though really I guess it's more vlog number 1 since I managed to talk so long on the first one, total of 17 minutes, that YouTube actually took it down for being too long a video. So I'm not actually sure how many of you saw that. In that case, I'm not going to prattle on like before. I'm going to keep things very concise and limit myself to telling you about what's happened over the last week. So as you guys know, I've been working on 2 projects. Obviously, Age of Admirals, Nelson at Cape St. Vincent. That's the main priority right now. And the second project being Union Asunder, the American Civil War project. Well, in the case of the first, we've had some good progress over the last week. I hammered out the basic model for Santissima Trinidad in a really surprisingly short time. I budgeted myself 2 weeks to get it done, and while she's not quite finished now, just in the space of 2 days, I got her up to the point where, yeah, she's almost ready for exporting. She still needs to have her armament finished, and I want to give her a last check over to check little details. I think there are some trims and little details missing, for example, on the supports under the gallery. You know, there are these supports like here. There should be like a trim there, like a white stripe. Just really small things like that. When I finish a model, the first thing I have to do is see how well it will print in FDM. So I take the resin model and I import it straight into Cura, and I try slice it, and I just look at what doesn't want to print, and that's what I thicken out when I do the FDM sculpt. So I make the original resin sculpt and the FDM sculpt. Obviously with this Kickstarter for the first time, that's going to be complemented by then moving on to the chunky sculpt, which will just be the normal basic resin sculpt, but with the addition of the thickened railings and the cannons from the FDM sculpt, essentially. And I leave the window panes on just to see if they'll print. So yeah, that's where Santissima is right now. I think like 2 days more work maximum and she'll be ready to go out. However, because I was rather conscious of the fact that people might feel that the American Civil War Kickstarter has received too much attention, and to be honest, that's probably true, because you know, when a project's launching and you're trying to get some attention for it, people to back it, you're obviously going to be spending time promoting it, trying to wheel out new things. So I will admit it's had a disproportionate amount of focus, but I wanted to reassure everyone by working extra hard on the Age of Admirals project. So in addition to Santissima Trinidad, I pretty much finished. She's ready to be imported for an FDM sculpt. I finished Diana, which is the Spanish frigate in the set. I'm quite proud of her because although I'd already made the basic hull shape and plotted the lines before I launched the Kickstarter, I came to that basic model and I finished her within a day. So that could well be the fastest ship I've made. I think it just speaks for the practice now. I mean, I'm at the point where I can almost rattle these off in my sleep, to be honest, which on the one hand you'd think might make it more boring, and to an extent it does. I'll be honest, it's not interesting new territory anymore. It does mean that I get a kind of relaxing, almost meditative pleasure from making ships, because I follow my same uniform process with everyone, and it's something that relaxes me. Whereas with new stuff like the figure sculpting I'm doing now, it's more unknown. I have to engage more in my brain. It's a little stressful. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what deadlines to promise people. So yeah, the ships are like my comfort food, as it were. Anyway, yes, Diana is pretty much ready, and then I started work on San Nicolas. I don't know if to call her San Nicolas or Phoenix, because technically the plans are of the Spanish ship Phoenix from 1749, but she's doubling up as San Nicolas, you know, for this little pack. It was a very, very similar to Diana, just rattled it off real quick. I do want to stress I'm not rushing these. They're not going to be released until they're ready. But yeah, I just had this burst of productivity, and that makes me feel kind of justified in the fact that this weekend the work is 100% on the American Civil War Kickstarter. To be honest, in how I allocate my time, it's only the working week where I budget and demark demarcate what I'm going to work on. The weekend's kind of like just open territory. In theory, it's meant to be when I can relax and play video games and do what I want to do, but during a period like this where there's a lot of work that needs to be done very quickly, I'm happy to work, but you know, I allocate the time on the fly is my point. It's not to a plan. Whereas during the working week, I'm doing 5 hours on one, 2-ish hours on the other, but then I can stretch that into my evening and my recreation time there if I feel it's justified. Anyway, I'm starting to natter. So Age of Admirals is in a good place. I've started work on San Jose, which means I think by, depending on how busy next week gets with the last run-up to the release of the second Kickstarter, I think San Jose will be in a similar position to San Nicolas and Santísima Trinidad by the end of next week, which should mean I'll have the Spanish core set ready at least within 2 weeks. So, back us to that. First, Kickstarter, Age of Admirals, Nelson at Cape St. Vincent. Do not worry, we are actually ahead of schedule because my plan had been to spend 2 weeks on each ship, which seems very conservative now, but to be honest, when I was doing Baltic Bulwarks, that's honestly how long it was taking. I think I just didn't account for the fact that I'm now much more practiced and I'm doing this full time. Even in Russia, where I was, especially once the coronavirus came in, I was doing this almost full time. I still had a teaching job. I was tutoring people, and the thing about teaching is, although it's certainly very mentally stimulating, it is the most draining job I've ever had. Perhaps it's because I'm an introverted person by nature, but having to interact with people, do public speaking, 6 to 8 hours a day, it was just, yeah, I'll come home, I'll be too tired, and I think it affected my productivity. Right, so now moving on to the American Civil War, and I see I have 3 minutes left before I go over time, so I'm going to rattle this off kind of list-like. So, artillery was the main work of the last week. I was working on crew poses for the guns. I produced a 32-pound Parrott model with a gun carriage, which can be adapted to different guns. I was trying to recreate all the poses that you see in artillery drill. Ideally, I want every man on the gun represented in various steps, through the process. So, for example, ramrod guy standing with his ramrod or ramming. We've got a one-handed ram, we've got a two-handed ram. I want to add an observer figure, officers, but the core set we've got right now, well, you can see pictures of it. It's in a good place. I think that's ready to go out to backers. It's just a case of adding more guns now. We've reached all the stretch goals, so the other cannons I promised are coming, and maybe a few more, because to be honest, it's really not very hard to make a cannon, so I can knock those out in like 10 minutes. Liam Williamson's, who you might have seen me tagging, he volunteered to send me some guns, and I suppose I won't turn down help with no strings attached, so I accepted those. Though I'd be happy to model them myself, it's fine. In addition to that artillery, I'm beginning the cavalry today. I've already sort of made a horse sculpt. I feel a bit uncomfortable about how good it is, but it will do for at least designing the poses. So today I'm going to be posing horses and designing the sculpts of the actual cavalrymen. As this is for the core set, they'll just be armed with sabers, nothing too fancy. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it's going. We've got a week to go now. We're unlocking the stretch goals. The next ones up are the ones that revolve around skirmishers, so adding in skirmisher poses, lever action rifles, and then not too far beyond that we'll have the Zouaves, which I'm bloody terrified of sculpting, to be honest. So yeah, 30 seconds left on the video. The state of the American Civil War is that I think the core set will be at least within a week of the project's launch next weekend, so 2 weeks from now. I hope to have everything back at hand. It's all going to be put into an openly accessible cloud storage folder. I'm doing the cavalry now. The artillery is pretty much done. I need to make some extra crew models though, like guys dressed down, their suspenders and shirts and whatnot. And yeah, core set should be in people's hands well on time. And I'm happy, and thank you everyone for the support they've shown so far. 1 second left. Goodbye.